It was one of those days. It was one of those days, the kind that starts off bad and keeps testing how much a man can take. Jack was already running late when he pulled his work truck out of the driveway that morning. Less than 10 minutes into his first job, he heard that unmistakable flap 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 sound of a flat tire. The job was supposed to be simple, a small sidewalk pour, but of course the pump jammed. The clog, he discovered, was right in the first section of the hose. With a sigh, Jack grabbed a 9-pound sledgehammer from the truck bed and went to work. 40 minutes and a few smashed knuckles later, the concrete finally flowed. The rest of the sidewalk job went relatively smoothly, but it was only the beginning. His second job was harder to find, tucked away in a neighborhood filled with luxury homes and winding roads that made no sense on the GPS. Jack got lost twice before finally locating the site. He parked the truck, stepped out, and surveyed the setup. The forms were in place, everything looked ready. He went back to the truck, locked the front wheel hubs, shifted into 4-wheel drive, and carefully rolled the pump up to the building, making sure there was enough space for the concrete truck to pull in behind him. Jack started unloading the hoses, heavy, stubborn things that coiled like angry snakes. He rolled them out one by one, then returned to the pump to insert the pressure-reducing cone and lock it into place. With practiced hands, he clamped the first 2-inch hose, then 4 more, building the long umbilical line that would deliver concrete where it was needed. Then came the part he didn't exactly like to advertise. Jack grabbed an old rag, rolled it into a ball, and stuffed it into the open hose, a makeshift plug. He glanced around quickly. No one was watching. Environmental activists hated this trick, but it was the only way to get the hose slicked fast. He took a piece of rebar and shoved the rag a few feet down the line. Then, from the truck bed, he fetched a quart of used motor oil and poured it in. Not ideal, but it worked. He sealed the hose back up and fired up the old Makio pump, letting it idle while he threaded the remote control line through the system. The contractor's laborers finally arrived. None of them spoke a word of English. "Damn," Jack muttered. Another one of those days. Still, work had to be done. He found a temporary water line, hooked up a hose, and filled the pump hopper. Just then, the beep of the approaching concrete truck echoed off the houses. Jack flagged it down, signaled the driver into position, and adjusted the chute. "Ready in 5, Jack told the site foreman. "I need 2 or 3 hose men and someone on the switch. Make sure the guy speaks English or we're gonna have problems." 5 minutes later, Jack was climbing the joists, the hose over his shoulder, balancing like a tightrope walker along the edge of the plywood forms. Below, 3 guys were holding the hose and 1 man was manning the switch. Jack gave the signal. The pump kicked in, sending water rushing through the hose to lubricate it. The concrete truck began pouring. The hose swelled and grew heavier as concrete replaced the water. Jack held the nozzle over the edge of the form and began to fill. The weight strained his shoulders. The hook on the hose helped a little. He used it to brace against the mold wall and relieve some of the pressure on his arms. But something was off. The helpers were falling behind, not keeping up as he moved along the wall. Jack yelled at them to keep pace, but they were like anchors. He was practically dragging them. At the corner of the wall, he glanced down. The switch operator wasn't even watching. He was laughing and chatting with another worker. Jack screamed, nothing. No response. The forms were full. Jack unhooked the hose, let it drop into the structure, and made his way down. He marched over to the switch, yanked the control box out of the man's hands, and slammed the pump into idle. With concrete already spreading on the floor inside, Jack waded through it to the end of the hose and hurled it out the nearest window. Then he turned to the concrete truck driver. "That's it. We're done." He flushed the hopper with water, cycling between pump and idle until the hose ran clear. When he was satisfied, he shut everything down. The truck driver walked over wide-eyed. "What are you gonna do now?" Jack, exhausted and shaking with rage, spat the words. "Did you see that? They almost pulled me off the damn beam. The switch guy wasn't even paying attention. I'm going home. Let someone else risk their neck for this circus." "Yeah, I saw," the driver said. I'll call the company. By the time the site supervisor arrived, Jack had already packed most of the hoses back into his truck. The guy jumped out of his pickup, livid. What the hell are you doing? You can't just walk off the job like this. Jack didn't miss a beat. Sure I can. Watch me. You walk off now, we'll sue you for breach of contract. Jack chuckled bitterly and pointed to the contract taped to his clipboard. Read the fine print. If you don't provide trained and English-speaking help, you're liable for any delays or damages. That's on you, not me. And since your guys nearly got me killed, I'm done. He threw the last coil of hose into the truck and drove off. Jack got home earlier than expected. All he wanted was a shower, maybe a cold beer. But as he walked into the house and stepped into the bedroom, he stopped cold. There was his wife in bed, tangled with another man. His neighbor, George. Jack stood there silently, watching her writhe in pleasure. He walked over to the closet, opened it slowly, and pulled out his 12-gauge automatic shotgun. It was already loaded with birdshot, but they didn't need to know that. With a sharp crack, he fired into the clothes hanging in the closet. They both jumped, screaming. He leveled the barrel at them. Their faces went pale. "Please don't shoot," his wife sobbed. "Please, Jack." He ignored her. His eyes were locked on George. "You ready to meet your maker, George?" Jack said coldly. "God doesn't take cheaters." Sue was shaking. "Jack, please. Get off the bed. Run to the linen closet and grab 2 beach towels. 1 for each of you. Now." She scrambled away. A minute later, she returned and tossed George a towel. "Wrap up," Jack barked. "Both of you. We're going for a walk." He shoved the shotgun barrel into George's back, marched them down the hallway and out the front door. Sue hesitated. "Jack, this towel doesn't cover." "Then take George. That's all you get to take from this house." Out on the sidewalk, neighbors gathered as the couple made their humiliating march of shame down the street. George's wife stood frozen on their porch as Jack marched them right up. "There's your cheating husband," he said. "If he ever comes near my place again, I will kill him. And as for her, she's your problem now." He ripped the towels off both of them, turned and walked away. At home, Jack kicked off his boots, popped a cold beer from the fridge, and finally let the tension drain from his shoulders. Yeah, it was one of those days.